Hello everyone, my name is Kristen Love and I'm an assistant professor at the Warner School of Education and Human Development at the University of Rochester. I serve as the director of our early childhood and childhood education programs. I'm joined today by my colleague Dr. Cynthia Carson, who's also an assistant professor at Warner. Cindy is a part of the Learning in the Digital Age Center and teaches elementary mathematic methods. Together, we both teach HyFlex courses within our elementary methods sequence, and we're excited to share how we've been emphasizing an inclusion and a belonging in our HyFlex courses. Today, we're going to take a deeper dive into what it means to engage in a social presence, which we believe is central to establishing a sense of community within a HyFlex classroom. We'll begin by looking at some recent research in HyFlex education, and then from there, we'll talk specifically about social presence. We'll spend a few moments on a discussion of pedagogies of care, which are intentional practices that help students feel supported, valued, and safe in a classroom environment, regardless of modality. We'll then talk about what it means to build a community of care in HyFlex environments, and how that community can become a foundation for both academic success and student well-being. We wanted to take a moment and share quickly what HyFlex means at the Warner School. Our HyFlex courses run in a teacher prep program, which has about 10 to 15 students in each course. We offer HyFlex both synchronous in-person and synchronous online. Our asynchronous sessions are scheduled for everyone at the class at the same time. So for the purposes of this presentation, we're focusing on bimodal instruction of online synchronous and in-person synchronous.
While HyFlex learning is not new with the pandemic, we believe that the pandemic served as an impetus to more fully embrace opportunities that HyFlex instruction offers. HyFlex offers a viable option for more personalized learning and it reduced the geographic barriers such as time and distance and potentially financial challenges that learners might have. It can provide learners flexible options for attending courses. As Beatty's 2024 article highlighted, we've now reached a stage where we can start to focus on the refinement of HyFlex modalities and practices, which are driven by pedagogical goals and technological advances. We know that the technology affords certain things in our learning spaces. We can focus on improving our learner experiences for all learners across these modalities. The research in HyFlex is also expanding, which is supporting this stage of refinement. Right now, we have the research that's due in part to this audience that's here today. Recent studies have emphasized the increased cognitive demand for instructors balancing two audiences with different needs, managing multiple technology platforms, and an increased workload. We have so much more to learn about HyFlex, and today we're going to share some of the findings from our own research with implementing a HyFlex approach in our methods courses. All right, so the Community of Inquiry Framework is a well-established model that has guided design and analysis of hybrid and online learning environments for over 2 decades. Garrison and colleagues developed this framework to support our understanding of any educational experience through the lens of cognitive presence, teaching presence, and social presence. We know that you're all very familiar with this framework, so we're not going to unpack this in any more detail, but we included this slide to help you ground our work or situate our work as we are focusing on our implementation of HyFlex courses. We really were focusing on the social presence in those courses. Kristen and I have spent a few years now focusing on student engagement and a sense of belonging by students in our course through that lens of social presence from the Community of Inquiry framework. These are aspects of our course design that we feel are often overlooked or at least underemphasized in current research today. So we are going to be sharing our findings with you today.
Another article that we wanted to spend a moment talking about is STAP's recent systematic review on social presence in blended learning environments. The study reviewed 21 blended learning principles and connected those to the research in social presence. It also examined studies that explored convergence, meaning how well the online and in-person components are working together. Not just about offering content in two separate modes, it's also about ensuring that what is planned and happening online is meaningful, and what is planned and happening in person is also meaningful. The authors emphasized that social presence is about learners feeling seen and connected, and highlighted 5 core practices connected to the research. The first is that core design supports interaction. It's not just about delivering content, but it's about creating intentional spaces for engagement. Next is having small group experiences that allow students to build direct trust and collaboration with one another. Then collaborative activities that promote that engagement, like shared projects or peer feedback or ways to have co-constructed documents. Emphasis on community building, so treating connection as a design goal, not optional. And then finally, authentic learning opportunities that feel meaningful, relevant, and rooted in students' lived experiences. Cindy and I both found that these strategies naturally aligned with what we're already doing in our methods courses, but naming them through this lens gives us a stronger framework for intentional design goals. Convergence is about creating a cohesive experience where students don't feel like they're juggling 2 separate courses, online and in person, but they're participating in one experience. The study offers 2 key ideas for this: establishing support and on-ramps for online learners, like directions in Blackboard or other LMS systems, or clear navigations during course sessions, or even offering low-stakes entry point activities for conversations. And then utilizing any in-person time for dialogue and collaboration, and extending and deepening what was already introduced online. One conflict we see with sharing this research is that much of the design solutions are focused on course delivery within one single modality rather than a HyFlex environment. However, these are the types of strategies and considerations we need to wrestle with in order to create inclusive, supportive HyFlex learning community. We want to quickly review what this actually looks like in practice for us. So what we're paying attention to are a few key things. 1, what does active engagement look like? Do students have their cameras on? Are they smiling? Are they talking? Are they collaborating on other activities? When there isn't discussion happening, we might not have a reason for students to have their camera and mic on, so we're very intentional about that. We're also looking for body positioning and facial cues. Are both students talking that are online and in person? Are they showing any emotion? Are they leaning in? Are they engaged? We're also observing if these activities are happening in collaboration or if one person has taken the reins to complete all the work for the students. All of these observable behaviors are things that clue us in if students are present in our class, and these are things that we're focusing on when we think about social presence. When we think about building deeper connections with people, important insights can be found in the humanities and feminist research. One influential framework we've explored for designing HyFlex environments with high social presence is Nell Nodding's work on ethics of care. Ethics of care encourages us to rethink how we approach teaching and learning by replacing relationships and care at the heart of education. The model highlights 4 interrelated components that create a dynamic process of caring. The first is modeling. Care begins when a caring person models caring behavior. This isn't just about what's said, but how care is demonstrated through actions, attitudes, and presence. Next is dialogue. Caring unfolds through genuine dialogue and conversation, meaningful 2-way communication where both parties are present and attentive. Dialogue allows for listening, understanding, and responding in ways that recognize needs, feelings, and experiences of others. Then there's practice. Care is not passive. It requires active practice. Students are invited to respond in caring ways towards each other, engage in actions that reflect their understanding of care. This phase emphasizes learning by doing, where caring becomes embodied and habitual rather than abstract. And then finally, there's confirmation. This is when a person acknowledges that care was received and responds in ways that show they trust others in this space. We recognize that our HyFlex classrooms typically have 10 to 15 students at a time, with about 1/3 to 2/3 participating online. This setup is somewhat unique compared to larger HyFlex courses. So to address this, we thought we would consider Uni and Adachi's article on digital pedagogies of care. This was particularly helpful in thinking about both large and smaller HyFlex settings. So to give an example about modeling, HyFlex courses offer many opportunities for students to connect before class sessions and begin. This can happen online or, as staff and colleagues suggest, by having the first session in person to establish initial relationships. When in-person meetings aren't possible, providing alternative communication pathways such as sharing contact information might help students make these connections sooner and outside of class. Dialogue is another one. Supporting both online and in-person learners requires intentional strategies like breaks, incorporating movement-based activities for everyone, a little bit of kettle boiling where there's some reflection at the beginning and ending of class, and sometimes just acknowledging that students need to step away for a moment or stretch can significantly improve their engagement. I'm going to jump down to confirmation. So finally, confirmation that every student has valuable contributions is crucial. Providing multiple ways for students to engage deeply, whether through multimodal communication or single mode interactions, this helps build networks of care and mutual affirmation. And here are some examples of what that looks like looking at ethics of care in our classroom spaces. Are people listening intently? Are they checking on online learner presence? And are they showing emotion to others when they engage in dialogue? Here are a few other examples. Are they having opportunities to have informal dialogue with one another in between activities? Are they showing some embodiment of body awareness? Do they know where they are, where their online learners are? How are they moving and positioning their bodies? And then do we invite, or do other students invite, thinking time in class so that everyone has time to process information and then provide a response?
So now we want to unpack some of these strategies that we utilize in our classes. First is an activity called the Chat Cafe. This is really more of a series of discussions that happen across our courses, during which we select various menu items such as a main course, side dish, or dessert. And each item, so if we were thinking about main courses as this slide showcases, each item has like a discussion prompt. And across the course, we spend time pairing up our students and discussing these prompts. And then at the end of the semester, we talk about reflecting on the full menu and considering the insights and the new things that we've learned about each other through this. A second strategy are what we call tree conversations, and they involve conversations that go to varying levels of depth. The top leaves are like surface culture, things that are have kind of a low emotional risk for students, things like what do you like in music or in food. Other conversations get to a little bit deeper, and we call those shallow culture, and those have to deal with topics that people might have a strong emotional charge or connection to. They might be areas that cause some distress or social friction, unspoken rules about everyday interactions. And then the third area we go into is what we call more deep cultural discussions. And these are things that topics and ideas that we have that shape our world view, that guide our ethics, that guide decisions about how we teach and even what we are teaching. And we think that engaging our students in these varying levels of depth across the semester really allow them to unpack some of their understandings and views about the world and understanding how they impact their instruction. So our third strategy has to do with quick-in checks, and we often use these for social and emotional learning. We use the polling feature in technology or digital platforms that we are using, and it can be as simple as how are you feeling today, so that when people are coming into the course, so that it gives everybody a chance to unpack a little bit about how they're feeling about things, and it gives everybody else a heads up of what someone else might be dealing with that day. Also, we have digital We Connect cards, and we might draw a card and everybody just discusses it with a partner. Like, what's the strangest thing you believed as a child? What are people often surprised about as an adult? Our fourth strategy is using structured protocols for our discussion and feedback times. For example, using the noticing and wonderings is a non-evaluative way to give feedback, but it helps it gives a leg up to our students to anchor their thoughts and ideas when they are sharing feedback. It gives them a structure to follow. Some popular ones are a see, think, wonder. If they are reflecting on video or something that they saw, what is what they saw, what do they think about it, and what is it making them wonder? Various forms of turn and talk, think, pair, share, or even a pause and reflect, taking a moment, reflect on what we were thinking about, and then taking the opportunity to listen to others and hear their takeaways. These structured protocols really help support engagement in discussion for each learner, especially if they're a little uncomfortable or not used to having discussions with people across different modalities in these situations. Another strategy is personalized learning with literature circles, and this is where we allow our students to choose. We provide them with a selection of different texts to read, could be books or articles, and they get to choose those because of a meaningful connection they feel like they have with that topic. And then they get to engage in small group discussions with others who have read the same text and are focusing on the same thing. This really supports this personalized choice that students can make, but it encourages ways for them to build community with others in their class that made the same choice about a text and the same interest that they have in common. Our sixth strategy is thinking about experiential learning opportunities. We really try to embed these into our course, co-teaching, co-planning, reflecting on lessons, co-designing learning activities, engaging in science experiences, engaging in mathematical tasks as partners, as teams, playing games, and assigning community-based assignments across students in modalities, really supporting their working together and co-designing and co-reflecting on different activities. We feel really helps them start to connect to each other with a purpose.
Thank you so much for listening to our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions by email.